Is plastic as bad as we think it is? Do we need to get rid of all plastic in the world? This and more on today's episode. I'm Valentina and welcome to my Life Without Plastic. Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode and another day in my life without plastic. Yeah, by the way, today's topic is plastic pollution or plastic in general. I guess it was a paradox that I've spent the last 2 years trying to do my best to ditch plastic from my life, and yet I still find it boring at times reading through all that's out there. And what's hard, I feel like a lot of that data is also outdated, or there are just some random numbers thrown in there. But more importantly than that, I felt like just having another episode and highlighting the numbers is not really interesting. I mean, I'm sure for the most part, most of you have heard those numbers in one way or another. I really don't want to repeat old news. So instead, I wanted to focus on the concept of plastic overall. I feel like we all know by now that it's bad, right? Like, why do we still use it? How essential is it actually to our lives? Those are the kind of main areas I want to touch base today, and not just the numbers of this is how many pounds of plastic trash we have in the landfills. What better way to start than a quick history lesson? Obviously, anytime we invent something new, a new product, there's always a need for it. There's a problem, we're looking for a solution, and then we come up with something new. So why did we come up with plastic? So synthetic polymers are made up of long chains of atoms arranged in repeating units, often much longer than those found in nature. So that's a big distinguishment, right? Cellulose, it's a natural polymer. And then when we talk about the synthetic ones, we have to emphasize that the chains of atoms that make up those synthetic polymers usually are much longer than those found in nature. It is the length of these chains and the patterns in which they are arranged that make polymers strong, lightweight, and flexible. In other words, it's what makes them so plastic. It's right, like what we identify as plastic: strong, lightweight, and flexible. Plastic was meant to save the world, to save the animals. So in the second half of the 19th century, the world faced a crisis that stemmed from the love of billiards, right? Elephants were being slaughtered in the thousands so that people could harvest their tusks to make high-quality billiard balls. Between 3 and 5 could be made from a tusk, meaning at least 2 animals had to be killed for every set of balls. And this is just one example among so many more. The creation of new materials also helped free people from the social and economic constraints imposed by the scarcity of natural resources. Inexpensive celluloid made material wealth more widespread and obtainable. And the plastics revolution was only getting started. So how did we go from using plastic to literally save nature, to save animals, to what it is today? The new research programs sought new plastics for their own sake and worried about finding uses for them later. So it was just such an exciting time, just going through all of these developments so rapidly that now people all of a sudden were like, you know what? Let's see what we can create and then find use for it later. So now it was no longer about we have a problem and this is how we're going to solve it. It was simple curiosity. What is this material? What can we make out of it? What can we shape it into? What can we replace stuff with it? And so on. So it was real, genuine curiosity of finding out all possible ways we could use that material, and then later seeing if there would be a potential use. And obviously now, knowing how things went, we definitely know there was a use for it, but not a necessary need. So the need to preserve scarce natural resources made the production of synthetic alternatives a priority. So during World War II, plastic production in the United States increased by 300%. So the surge in plastic production continued after the war ended. The dangers of plastics at this point were not really known, or at least not emphasized. So the unblemished optimism about plastics obviously didn't last. In the post-war years, there was a shift in American perception as plastics were no longer seen as something so positive. Plastic debris, for one, in the oceans was first observed in the 1960s, a decade in which Americans became increasingly aware of environmental problems. So plastic gradually became a word to describe something that was cheap, flimsy, or fake. Plastic's reputation fell further in the 1970s and 80s as anxiety about waste increased. Plastic became a special target because while so many plastic products are disposable, plastic lasts forever in the environment. It was the plastics industry that offered recycling as a solution. I think that's very interesting to keep in mind. However, recycling is far from perfect, and most plastics still end up in landfills or in the environment. The reputation of plastic has suffered further thanks to a growing concern about the potential threat they pose to human health. And some scientists and members of the public are concerned about evidence that these chemicals leach out of plastics and into our food, water, and bodies. Let's see what some people say in favor of plastic. Plastics improved safety with inventions like padded foam dashboards and bicycle helmets. Fuel efficiency got a boost from lighter cars. The use of plastics in medical devices and procedures led to advancements in medicine and widespread improvements in human health. Plastics also made possible the technological revolution that created cell phones and other high-powered computers. American standards of living have improved dramatically in the last half-century, in large part because of plastics. To maintain the momentum of scientific advancement, innovation must be encouraged and supported. Modern medicine also has greatly benefited from the disposable plastic syringe invented in 1955. Sterile plastic packaging and disposable medical items have helped prevent countless infections, one of the world's leading causes of death. So we have to see how we can find a balance and how we can tackle this problem, not by creating more problems, but by actually finding a solution. We can't force ourselves to turn back the clock to a pre-plastic age. The challenge is rather to mitigate the worst effects of plastic and find ways of reducing the pollution it causes. I feel like plastic is an amazing material that has truly enabled us to innovate and create things to truly better society. But at the same time, we've slipped away a little from its main purpose, which is that plastic is a very durable material that is meant to last. And I'll repeat, plastic is meant to last. It's not meant to be a shopping bag for 12 minutes. It's not meant to be a plastic straw in your drink for a night out. So it's really up to us how we use it and what we make out of it. So yeah, while I do welcome you on my journey to ditch plastic, I welcome you in my life without plastic, I also can recognize that plastic has helped us in so many areas, and that it has become essential in so many areas. It's made life in so many different ways safer for us. It's bettered life for us. So I think that plastic is a very typical topic where people tend to just pick two extreme sides. You're either pro or con, like there's no in between. And I really think that the truth specifically for plastic lies somewhere in between. We kind of need to go back to the original purpose. Why did we invent plastic? We invented plastic to save the world, to save the environment, to save the elephants. That was the purpose of it. And now it's turned into a weapon killing animals again. So we have to come to a middle ground and recognize that plastic has to be used in its real purpose, which is being durable, being strong, and that's the main purpose of it. So let's say no to the single-use plastic. Let's say no to the plastic straws that we get when we go out, to the single-use bags that we get in the grocery store. But let's still encourage the use of plastic in all of these other areas like medicine. But yeah, let me know. I'm very curious to find out what you guys think about that. And definitely stay tuned for next week's episode. Today we talked about plastic, and next week we'll be talking about water. Just going through all of the resources out there. So definitely stay tuned to find out all of the ins and outs of where we stand with water. Is it running out? What's happening? So that's all for today. See y'all next week. Bye.